I'm Kayo Chingonyi. I write poetry and also essays and short stories, but mainly poetry is what I publish. And I suppose I write about the musicality of language, the nature of inheritance, loss as well comes into my work quite often. And this new book that is coming out in June, Kumukanda, is to do with self-making, what self you choose to be, I suppose. I started writing poetry through writing lyrics. So when I was a kid, I would memorize the lyrics to songs and just carry them about with me all day. And that led into me writing my own songs. And then from there, I was really interested in like musical forms. So when it came to writing poetry, there was something about the musical aspect of it which made a lot of sense to me. So I was really interested in rhyme and meter and that kind of stuff. So I think something like garage or grime or rap, hip hop appeals to me because they're very metrical, rhyme-based forms. So they're very influential to the ways in which I use rhyme in my poetry, the ways in which I use meter and try and interrupt meter and play around with what the line can do. I'm very interested in rhymes that interlock, are interweaved somehow like a thread or a braid. One of my favorite rhymers is a guy called Jest from the UK, who he's really adept at internal rhyming. Like an example, airborne, my form shrouded by cloud form is one of his lines. And his work is full of that level of internal rhyme. And so if I can drop in some internal rhyme to what I'm doing, I feel like I've spoken to that part of myself which appreciates people like Jess. I think a pamphlet is like a shot of espresso almost, and a collection is something that you ruminate over more, like it might be like a larger brew, and you have to think about how the flavors complement each other, perhaps. Yeah, I think in putting together a longer collection, I've been thinking about the relationship of individual poems to each other, but also the relationship of the poems as a whole. Whereas in a pamphlet, I feel you have space to just focus on one thing maybe, and that will be the subject of the pamphlet, or these are some poems about such and such. Whereas with a collection, they are poems about a particular thing, but they branch out into various areas, I think, more so than my pamphlets do. I think Anglophone literature is very broad. The Anglophone literary world is very expansive, and so you could take in, even if you don't read another language, you could take in influences from so many different cultures just by reading outside your comfort zone. So I think internationalism is important to me as a reader because it exposes me to different ways of viewing the world. And as a writer, it exposes me to different ways of making poems, different traditions. My poems can aim for different things if I look internationally at what's going on in poetry.